Welcome to the Christian Campfire Conversations podcast, where we have real conversations about real topics. Our goal is to educate believers in order to fulfill the Great Commission. So without further ado, let's get on to the podcast.
What's going on, my basic family? We're back here again with another episode. I'm joined by my co-host / best friend, Keegan Lowen. Keegan, what's up, man?
I'm joined by my co-host, Max Moore. We gotta set this straight. Who is in charge here?
Oh, man.
Just kidding. We are co-brothers in Christ.
Co-bigs.
It is going pretty good. I'm on my third day at home now.
Man.
Feels odd.
Yeah, you don't like being back in your hometown? Saying, yeah, back when I was in high school, I won one of day back.
Well, I don't even have my state championship ring yet, so I can't even be like put my Letterman's jacket on, put my ring on, wear my 5 state medals.
So basically, you're saying you didn't peak in high school?
No, I've actually gotten better since.
Oh, is that like what it's supposed to happen?
No, I'm pretty sure you're supposed to peak in high school.
Oh, okay.
I've actually talked to a couple people who still live in town here.
Shout out to it. No, just joking.
Yeah. Well, how was your day?
Yeah, my day is pretty good. If you notice day, that's because we recorded the last week's episode last night, and then we're doing it since we're together. So my day was pretty good. Hey,
Max, you want to touch my hand?
No, I'm okay. So it's 2:30, and
I can read that now.
Yeah, you can. You learned. You want to watch some YouTube videos?
Yeah, over the last week. I mean, by week I mean day.
By day,
I've learned how to read the clock.
Stayed up till 3 a.m. watching videos on how to read analog clocks.
It's a lost art.
My watch isn't even that fancy. It's just got the analog on it.
Oh yeah, so you don't have a choice to I can just go in here and change the settings. And
I also learned how to read an analog clock when I was in 3rd grade.
Well, yeah, but didn't you lose how to do it over time?
No.
Because they started catering to these younger kids. They're like, oh, they can't read the analog clock, so we're gonna put up the digital clock.
They did?
Yeah, dude. When in school they started putting the digital clocks over the other clocks that how we used to have bells, and now we have bells again.
Yeah.
They had put the digital clocks over the analog clocks because these children don't know how to read the analog clocks.
It's almost like, we could as an education institution, we could teach them how to read analog clocks.
It's not our job.
Or we're not getting paid to do that by any means.
Well, they didn't have Miss Baker, so
that's true.
Oh my gosh, she scared it into us. Oh man. So yeah, Max is being a little bit humble right now, but he actually got to preach today. What's this like? How many times have you preached?
So, man, I'm trying to think. I think this was my 12th time preaching.
Okay.
So yeah, this is my 3rd time preaching at that specific church.
Oh wow! So they must have liked you.
I don't know how, but they don't have a pastor right now, so that's why they're like, we have to get this Max guy over here because
he's
we don't
cheap
have a pastor.
And he's better than what we have, which is nothing. It's like anything's better than what we got.
Exactly. So no, yeah, it was good.
And I know this, but our audience doesn't know this. What were you preaching over?
So I was preaching over 1 Corinthians 13, the love chapter.
Love.
Yeah,
and we just got done with we didn't talk about love necessarily. We talked about dating, so you should be in love with the person you date. And we're going to be moving on to something new this week.
But Keegan, we haven't even talked about how was your day. How was Morningside Community Church?
Hopefully Tim doesn't listen to this. No, just kidding.
You prefacing that sounds bad already. It's like, oh boy, hopefully the pastor doesn't hear this.
He was, we'll just put it this way, he was very passionate this morning, and we didn't get out of church until close to 12:30. Man,
and that's almost backwards, because I was preaching at a Baptist church, and we were out of there before noon. And
that's like the opposite of what you would think.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying.
My non-dom family is getting out at 11:30, and the Baptists are still, is that a hand-raising type of church?
No.
Okay.
I mean, there are some people that do it, but
it's like what is the general what do people say about Baptists? How they kind of have things for This don't like okay. What's the one that's like speaking in tongues?
That's Pentecostal.
Pentecostal, like
yeah.
so. There's your Pentecostals, and like they have their own stigma around them, or like kind of what they are. So like, what's the thing with Baptists?
So the thing with Baptists is they're typically old. Like that's one of the things. I mean, that's true. It's true. And then they always like dress super like. Not this one that I was at, but like some of the bigger city Baptist churches, like they dress like slacks, shoes. That's kind of like the stereotype. And then they also are kind of known for like meeting the time criteria on their sermons. It's like I make a joke. It's like, oh man, I got to go down to the Baptist church, so I got to extend my sermon time by like 15 minutes because I got to meet the time criteria.
It's like they like schedule.
Yeah, pretty much. And in all honesty, it's like nobody's really complaining about getting out of church a little earlier. Right. So I mean, I don't actually change my sermon length, but I do joke about it.
Every denomination has their kind of thing around that surrounds them that people just kind of joke about, and it's.
Should we talk about that today? Let's talk about that today.
You want to talk about denominations?
Denominations.
Okay, that'll be good. We were going to talk about something else, but we're going to talk about denominations. We seem to be just flowing naturally into that.
Yeah.
So you can close your Bible.
Yeah. From Revelation 4. We won't talk about Revelation. But
can I just say how good we sound right now?
Man, what do you guys think of this new audio equipment?
Yeah, I sure hope you guys like it because
it was expensive, very expensive. So if you guys ever want to donate, my Venmo, no, I'm just joking.
We will link our Venmo in the bio. Yeah. So actually, I kind of have a personal experience with this. I grew up in a Mennonite Brethren church. Did you even know that?
No.
I
always known you as a non-dom.
A non-dom?
Yeah.
The only place I'm non-dominant is in basketball. So, so yeah, actually, till I was in about third grade, I went to a Mennonite church. And that's where
explain the Mennonite, because like there's different types of Mennonites.
Right. Okay. So this is gonna get complicated. So I'm German Mennonite. So that's kind of a thing.
Explain this thoroughly.
It's so, oh my gosh, it's just different. Okay, so let's just say there's German Mennonites, there's Holderman Mennonites, and then there's like Mennonite Brethren, and then there's also other types of Mennonites.
And there's like a manual Mennonite.
Yeah, there's different. Okay, so we'll first start with the German Mennonites. They're very similar. I don't even know if it's considered a denomination as much as it is like a culture.
Yeah.
So generally the women wear black head coverings, and the men dress with like jeans and a button-up shirt.
And it's, I mean, kind of explain like, okay, so these are people that have migrated typically up from Mexico.
Well, okay, if you take it farther back, they were from Prussia.
Yeah.
And they left, I think, because of like religious persecution. So they moved to North America. A lot of them moved into Canada, and a lot of them moved into Mexico. And my mom's from Canada. And my dad's from Mexico.
And then you're from the United States.
And I'm from the United States. They met in Kansas. So like pretty much it's like a couple hours off from being dead center. So that's pretty cool.
That's pretty great.
So that's kind of German Mennonites. So they came from Prussia. A lot of them are in Canada and Mexico, and now migrating to the United States. This fly is giving me a hard time. And then, okay, now we got Holderman Mennonites.
So Holderman Mennonites, they would be probably mostly related to the Amish. In some of their belief system.
Yep.
They're very, very legalistic.
Yes.
They don't listen to radio, they don't listen to radios. They don't watch TV, but they can watch YouTube.
They don't watch TV, but, okay, we kind of make jokes about it because, okay, we're a community of about 1,000 people.
Yeah.
And about 75% of them are Mennonite, I'd say, pretty close to.
Yeah, there's like three big Holderman Mennonite churches.
Yeah, like how many Holderman Mennonite churches do you need in this area? Yeah. But there's a lot of them, I will say.
Yeah, there is.
And their church is bigger than our church.
Yeah, 100%. They have the biggest church in the community, and there's multiple of them.
Yeah. And so, like Max was saying, generally more legalistic about having rules. Their founder of their religion was John Holderman.
Yeah.
I'm not very well educated on that, but we definitely have, I feel like, disagreements about how we're saved in that one. And that's probably what's going to differ from like evangelical Christian denominations to like I think it would be considered a denomination, but if you can't come together on the fact that Jesus Christ died on the cross for your sins,
And for all your sins.
For all your sins, and you can't.
The penalty.
Yeah, he paid. Yeah, he paid for all of your sins. Then I don't think you can be considered a Christian denomination.
Yeah, I think that's kind of a core central belief.
It's like all of them derived. Okay, pretty much all of them derived from the Catholic Church. So, and we've all, and the non-denominational is, you can't really put it in one box because there's a lot of different beliefs.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got German Mennonites, Holderman Mennonites, and now we're on to Mennonite Brethren. I grew up in a Mennonite church, a Mennonite Brethren church, that is. And then I went from like third grade till, just about a month and a half ago, I went to our church here in town, Morningside Community Church, which is a non-denominational church. And now I've moved to Wichita, and I go to a church called Ridge Point, and it's also a Mennonite Brethren church.
Yeah.
And honestly, I haven't just like sat down and read their statement of faith, which I would recommend before you go to a church.
Sinner.
But I've been to about 6 of their services now, and I've really agreed with it. I'm pretty solid in what I believe, so when I went there and listened to what they had to preach, I've agreed with all of it. Well, from what I've been told, my parents have done a lot more research on this, obviously, because they were involved with a youth group through the Mennonite Brethren Church. And kind of one of the differences is some of the older, more traditional Mennonites will not believe in, like they don't believe that people should fight in wars, which is a difference. Like, I don't believe that.
Yeah.
And I don't think when we're talking about different denominations, for the most part, we're talking about different, what's the word? Oh my, it's not theology and it's not doctrine, but like
distinctives? Is that
kind of like things that are not salvation based.
Yeah.
It's like different ways that we believe on things that are not salvation based. So I don't think that should be like, you definitely want to go to a place that believes a lot of the same things as you, but there might be some places that have a view on a particular issue that will not affect a salvation.
Yeah, like for an example, like old Earth creationism. Like believing that, or like being a theistic evolutionist, that you believe that God made the Earth using evolution. I mean, that's not a salvation issue by any means, but
what do you believe on evolution?
That is a completely different topic. I am more than willing to talk about.
Okay.
But don't try to, because I mean, how much time we got?
I can't even see the timer now, so.
Because if we got, like an hour to talk about, we can.
Yeah. So that's kind of my background with different denominations. Max, you've been a non-dom your whole life.
Been a non-dom. I'm kind of I definitely think there's probably, I'd like to say there's a lot of pros to being a non-dom. I think obviously there's cons. I mean, obviously, when it comes to like churches that are non-denominational in a small community that don't have pastors, it's tough to get a pastor.
Yep.
And with pulpit supply, it's like, man, then you got to call around.
Yeah.
Like if you're at like the First Baptist Church, it's like, hey, they just have to call up someone and say, hey, we don't have a pastor, we need some pulpit supply, and then through their chain of connection, they can get someone to go preach, even though it's not a full-time pastor. That's something that non-doms don't have. We're kind of off on our own.
Right. It's like, well, it almost forces you to make your own community, and like then not just being dependent as a church. You want to be, you are independent as a church. I mean, like that's where I feel like churches of all the denominations in a community, like coming together and like helping each other out, or like even in my uncle's community, they have a couple churches, and so like there's like a Methodist church. I want to say, I don't think there's a Catholic church. There's a Methodist, and there's like his, which I think is technically a non-denomination. I think they're ex-Mennonite. They just haven't changed the name.
I thought it was Emmanuel Mennonite.
Is that a denomination?
I know I've known a couple of different, like in the bigger cities. I think it is a denomination.
Okay, well, I don't think they're affiliated with it anymore.
Gotcha.
So I'm pretty sure, I don't know, maybe we got to talk to Ken. Future guest, by the way.
Future guest, Ken.
If you're watching, we want you.
Want you. Give him a shout out.
Yeah.
So so I mean, almost every denomination kind of has its like little thing. You know, I mean, like if you you can easily find like the different beliefs between the different denominations, like what caused the split and stuff like that. Ultimately, what caused the split was, I mean, before Martin Luther came around, it was just the Catholic Church.
Yep.
Just the Catholic Church, just the Pope, and if you weren't a part of the Catholic Church, you probably weren't Christian.
Yeah.
And then Martin Luther nailed his 95 Theses to the door in Germany, and then that sparked the Protestant Reformation. Mm-hmm. A little history lesson for you guys. I actually did a research paper on Martin Luther.
Aww.
So that means I'm an expert. I know everything there is.
You're a little teacher's pet is what you are.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm a little pastor's pet.
Pastor's pet. You were a pastor's pet this whole summer.
I was trying to please Pastor Tim the whole time.
What, did he pet you?
No. He's not a... Okay. Thank the Lord for sanctification, because I was about to make a joke that wasn't very... Yeah. Anyway, so the Catholic Church then kind of like excommunicated Luther, and then he made like the Lutheran Church. Yep. And then from that, like there's just so many different things that went like... so during that time, there was John Calvin around there, and then is it Jacob Arminius? I think is his name.
Yep, because there's conflicting views there.
Exactly. There's the Arminian, and then the Calvinist, and then the Lutheran. And if you ever been to a Lutheran service, or if any of you guys are Lutheran, it's a lot like a Catholic service, just better theology.
Right.
Because I would even go as far to say as the Catholic teaching, the Catholic Church teaching, isn't
straight from the Pope.
Is not aligned with the Bible.
Right.
And I would say if you're following the Roman Catholic Church teaching, then you probably aren't saved. I'm not going to say Catholics aren't saved. Statement. I'm not saying Catholics are not saved. There is definitely Catholics that are saved. But if you're following the Roman Catholic Church teaching, you're probably not saved.
And we find out a lot that you talk to a Catholic and they don't even believe a lot of the things that the church.
Exactly.
And that's where it's like a denomination where you don't, like Catholic's kind of on the line. Like if you're not believing in true salvation, like that's kind of the line where I would draw it. But if you're in a circumstance where you're forced to go to a church like that, I don't think you're sinning.
No.
You're still going to church. You're having community. And so I think the core belief is once again salvation. Yeah. And correct. Do you remember which denomination broke off from the Lutheran Church? Is that Pentecostal?
Oh man, there's just so many different ones. There's like the apostolic. Yeah, that one.
There you go, buddy.
Yeah, I can't talk. So there's that one, and they're like Pentecostal. Like those are pretty closely related. And then there's just like then the Methodist churches there. There's just so many like just offsprings of different churches because someone got mad at someone else or someone had a different belief than someone else, and so then they broke off. And I don't know the ins and outs by any means.
Right. Okay.
Those different denominations.
Here's kind of one thing, like the way that I see it with a non-denominational church. I feel like it's easier for a group of people in the church to overrun and fill it with their own ideas.
Yeah, 100%.
That's one of the concerns. Honestly, I still prefer a non-denominational church.
And I do too.
Non-denominational.
Say non-dom.
Right. Non-dom, that makes so much more sense.
We gotta be so cool with it. No, but I do too.
But I want to say another thing also. Like, on the flip side of that is in a denominational church where you are part of a denomination, a denom, there's decisions being made about your church outside of your church. Mm-hmm. It's like, I like the more localized view, but it's like also you're more well established and there has to go through more people before you can change. I mean, like look at the Methodist Church.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the most notable. We just witnessed a split of the Methodist Church.
Oh man. I mean, thousands of churches just in Kansas alone are leaving the Methodist, becoming Global Methodist, or just becoming, I've preached at one Methodist church that split off, and now they're just a community church. They're non-dom now.
Right, exactly.
And it's over this issue, and I mean that's like a massive blow to the Methodist church because there's so many of them, and there's a lot of them switching. I know of like 3 or 4 that I just know about that have switched over, and something like that, like man, because then you got to buy the building back, and you have to do all these things because of someone else, in a different state made a decision.
Exactly. Those are not generally the beliefs of small town America.
Exactly. And see, that's one of the pros of being non-dom. And we are in no way, like, if you don't go to a non-dom church, like, don't leave the churches.
Right. And I don't. Like.
Yeah, exactly. So, and it's like, that's one of the benefits of a non-dom is like, hey, these leaders know the community.
Right.
These leaders, the elders and the deacons, like, they know who their people are, and so they can make wise decisions regarding their people.
Well,
it's different.
It's interesting because I think it's been about 5 years. I might be off on that number, but the church I go to in Wichita, they used to be called the Mennonite Brethren Church of Wichita or something like that, and they actually just changed it to Ridge Point. And they kind of their belief was, we feel like we're putting ourselves in a box and we're not there. They wanted to make an emphasis on the younger generation. So what they did with that, the first thing they did was they changed their church name, and they're still part of the assembly. I think that's what they call it. The conference is what they call it. Gotcha. They're still part of the conference. They changed the name to try to cater towards the younger generation, and then they built a $9 million addition for the kids because they felt like, well, I think that's a general stigma around Mennonite churches is that usually the members are a lot older.
Yeah.
And so they're like, we don't want that to be how our church is defined. And so now they're like mid 20s to like early 40s population, I think, is their most popular. And those are the ones who have kids, you know? And so a church without kids is just dead, in my opinion.
You're exactly right. I mean, because then, like, where's the future at?
Right.
It's like, man, if you don't have kids there, because then it's like, then parents with kids are like, well, this church has 0 kids.
Right.
So
I'm not going to, you just continue to, like, what happens when they all die? I mean, that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. And
it
really
turns into what's the church on the other side of town?
Oh, I don't even know what it's called.
What's it?
I don't know, but it's...
They haven't called you for your preaching services?
No, they haven't.
For all 4 of their members?
There's not many of them. And, yeah, it's
funny.
It's definitely kind of... It's almost, like, sad to see that, because I've preached at a church where there's, like, 12, 15 members, and then I go there to preach, and I have family at the church. That's how I got connected there in Central Kansas. And literally, like, I bring some of my family, and we, like, double the average attendance there just with bringing my family. And really, it's sad to see.
Yeah.
And
I think we can speak to this, that Morningside has done a pretty tremendous job over the last 5 years. Our church has grown.
Oh yeah, for sure. And Pastor Tim Erickson, shout out, he has done an amazing job of helping it grow, just because of the things that he's done and the way that he conducts himself, and he's out there, and he's watching basketball games, and and then his sermons are just pretty great.
And very they come from a place of knowledge.
Yes, Tim is a big nerd in a good way.
In a good way. Future guest as well.
Yes,
Tim, we want you. Max, what else do you have to say about denominations?
I mean, without going on a big rant about Catholicism more, I mean, I guess I can. I'll just that kind of brings it to probably almost a close of just like denominations aren't an end all be all, and don't be scared if someone like, oh, they go to this denomination because. Listen, the pastor there might not even believe what the church really teaches. Right. I mean, it shouldn't. I mean, try things out.
Do you want me to go get my iPad so I can do more research?
It's okay. I got all the research right here.
Oh, yeah? Just been retaining that information?
100%. No, there's so much to go in depth in that, but I don't want to. Yeah, it's kind of
it's kind of a fine line to not try to offend anybody. It's like we don't agree with a lot of the teaching, but it's like if you have ever been involved with someone or say you are somebody who is part of the Catholic Church, you've realized that they're very loyal to it, even though they don't believe a lot of the things that they say. Yeah,
maybe. I mean, Catholicism is the podcast for a different time, but yeah, no, I agree. And I think sometimes it's like I know of a pastor who's telling a story of another pastor, and he was basically explaining that he's preaching at this denomination that there was one part that he didn't necessarily agree with.
Right.
I think it was like you had to be baptized to be saved or something like that, and he didn't agree with that. That was but that was the church teaching, and so he would make subtle comments almost, and then he would like kind of like look around and like look at people, but then like hardly anyone even said anything because
Right.
they didn't even realize it.
Well, how does that? So when you're a member of the church, how does that change from versus when you're looking at it as a pastor? When you're like, do I want to pastor this church? So say, like we said, you can overlook minor differences as a member, but how does that change when you become a pastor?
It definitely could cause problems
Right.
as a pastor. You know, if you're a member, you know, it's kind of like you're choosing to go there, and it's like, I mean, you can easily just go to a different church on Sunday. Like you don't have to go to this church every
Yeah.
Sunday. You know, like, I mean, you have free will to do that. But when you're kind of like, when you're pastoring a church.
Wait, did you say I have free will to do that?
Another podcast topic, Kashmir? No. But when you're a pastor, I mean, you're getting paid by this church or by this denomination to preach, you know, almost what they believe. So if you don't agree with them, then
Right.
you're kind of in a sticky situation. So
Yeah. Well, and I think a lot of churches fail in their interview processes of actually asking whether, and I don't know this from a personal experience, but I know that the only way that bad pastors who teach false teaching get into power is they probably weren't interviewed properly and asked like, okay, do you actually believe the teachings of the church?
Yeah, or they just hire someone too quickly. That's
Right.
the thing. And I think, I
Too
mean, that falls
desperate.
in line with what you were saying. But it's like, I think is it in like 1st or 2nd Timothy? I think it talks about that, of like not laying hands on someone too quickly, of like, which basically means just like, don't just hire someone like just like that.
Right.
You know, I mean, like, wait, pray about it, take time,
Right.
and then hire someone.
Well, and they also talk about like the age of somebody.
Yeah, I mean, if someone's like 85, it's like, you know,
And if someone's like 20, they're probably not mature in the faith either.
yeah, exactly.
And it's like, so if you're, I mean, we're not saying don't hire young pastors, but it's like, I feel like the younger generation is more likely to fall into the traps of trying to cater to a younger generation in the wrong ways.
Yeah, and yeah, I think that's too. I mean, just be wise about who you hire. Really.
Yeah.
And that's what it comes down to. Because it's like, hey, maybe there is someone that's like they're 21. It's like, hey, they would be a good pastor. Because like, man, that's when I'm hoping to be out of college. You know,
Right.
I
And
hope
it's like
someone takes a chance with me.
They're like, okay, he's 21, but he doesn't act like it.
Yeah, exactly.
He's like,
You know.
So Max, oh shoot, I had a question to ask you. I was gonna do like a little mock interview. Max, what do you think about animal sacrifices in church?
I once did one.
Did I tell the story about the goat?
No.
Have I told you of this?
No, I haven't. No, you haven't.
So we're actually talking a little bit about, like, we're going to get into denominations and, like, my life group, I guess. I don't know what it's really called, but this was actually in Sunday school at my church in Wichita. And this is not going to, like, to be, like, to scare people away from going to church here. But it's, like, we were talking about how it's, like, some churches just do things differently. And it kind of weirds people out.
Uh-huh.
Like, for our church, we pass around communion, like, from pew to pew.
Yeah.
A lot of the churches I go to now, you go up to get communion. You pray in front of the cross, and then you go sit down and then have your quiet time or whatever. But the thing they said was, so it was like, yeah, we might do some things a little bit different around here that people aren't so used to. This is in Sunday school. And this guy's like, oh, yeah, like the goat sacrifice. It's like, yeah, once a month we get a goat and we slit its neck and there's lots of blood and we just sacrifice a goat. And he was joking, of course.
Yeah.
And then later in Sunday school, we got into talking about reincarnation. And it's like they were talking about this lady who she thought the cat was her grandma. Her grandma had died and she thought the cat had reincarnated as her grandma.
How old was she?
I don't remember. This was a story, someone telling a story about someone they knew.
Okay.
But like I think they still had kids in the house. So, you know,
Gotcha.
40s.
Yeah. I caught it.
Nice. Anyway, but then the cat was dying. So dang it, grandma's dying. And lo and behold, they had to go out of town. And these people, I don't know if it was these people or somebody, I think it was somebody else that they knew, had to take care of this cat that was dying, who was also grandma.
Yeah.
when they were going out of town.
Like, take care of it like it's like her grandma.
Right. If you let the cat die, then you just killed grandma.
Oh, man, that's so tough.
Such
That's
a
such a
tough-
horrible situation to be in.
But there's more, and so they made it. They kept the cat alive through the weekend. It's like, yeah, some people think they're gonna reincarnate as a cat or as a dog or as this, that, or the other. I'm like, well, I hope it's not a goat. It's like this new guy in Sunday school cracking jokes. We must like him already.
Or it's like, get this guy out of here.
He knows too much.
That's wild, though. Dude, I bet all the visitors in there were just like looking around there,
It's
like,
like,
what?
Well, the
heck?
guy who he was so straight faced. He's like, if you're a visitor here at our church, I just want you to know this weird thing that we do. Some people think it's weird. We don't think it's weird. It's like we just we just kill this goat in front of the whole congregation and just let it happen.
Dude, you know what? He should have just brought a goat. And like, yeah, his name's Bob.
Say
Look at, can you pet on Bob for me?
Everybody
And then
It's like,
and then boom, he's done
he's
it.
dead.
Yeah.
Bob's dead.
So then he was like, is he actually gonna kill Bob? But
Come back in 4 weeks if you want to see us do it again.
highest attendance records of the church ever.
That's awesome.
Well, guys, thank you so much for listening to C3, and we'll peace out, Basic Family.
Peace out, Basic Family.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of Christian Campfire Conversations. I'll see you next week.